Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Partyless. I am your host, Anna Sudbury, and I am a conservative who is just tired of feeling like I don't fit in with either party. I am not buying what either party is selling. I'm not happy with what I see going on right now. I feel like we are totally being lied to, and the people in our current administration were set up for great success and have kind of delivered very little to nothing of what we voted for. So if those are the kinds of things that you're interested in hearing more about, welcome to Partyless. The first thing I want to talk about is the fact that we have now completed 1 year of Donald Trump's presidency, and we have seen some good things coming out. To be fair, we've seen some good things. Of course, it's far better than what we would have had if we had a Kamala Harris and Tim Walz presidency, which would have been a giant disaster, as evidenced by the recent Minnesota fraud scandal that's been coming out from Nick Shirley. So, of course, you probably have heard so much about this story at this point. I hope you have. If you listen to any kind of podcasts or sit on X for even 2 minutes a day, you've probably seen this. If you watch the news, then you may not have heard about it at all, because that's the state of our media in this country. So, of course, what happened with Nick Shirley's videos, he is a 23-year-old independent journalist, and he's been hustling for quite a while now, probably, I don't even know how many, a couple years at least. And he's been working very hard and posting every week and doing a great job going to Antifa protests. He's been going to very dangerous places, frankly, and doing some investigative journalism, which is amazing because a lot of people, as he says, never leave their studios and they're just too afraid to actually go and do journalism. But we need that because nobody's actually doing it. Our journalists aren't actually doing that. So, of course, we need 23-year-old men with an iPhone and a microphone to just go and show us what's going on. And that's kind of what happened in his case. So he went to some sites of Minnesota potential daycare fraud, and he literally just went and knocked on the doors of these businesses and asked if he could sign his child up. And he asked if there were any children. And he just recorded the building and showed us that it was impossible that this location was actually a daycare or a home health aid business or any of the things that they were claiming to be. And these are all Somali-owned businesses that are getting millions and millions of dollars in taxpayer funding. And of course, they were all fraudulent, and he was harassed, he was yelled at, he was screamed at, he was intimidated by the people that were working there. In one of the videos, you can see a woman who has a badly bruised and beaten face, and she's wearing a hijab, and I can't even imagine what's under the rest of her religious clothing. Because her face is so badly beaten and she looks completely demoralized and scared, frankly. And he just went around and recorded these people and asked them, where are the kids? And can I enroll my child? And of course, they all said no. They chased him off. And he pretty much exposed that it's all a lie. It's all a scam to get American tax dollars to funnel to these fake Somali businesses, to fund these Somalis living in our country illegally, many of them, to just fund them to live for free on our dollar and have luxury vehicles we couldn't dream of affording, to have beautiful homes, for these men to have multiple wives where the women are just registering that they're single mothers when in reality they're like some guy's sixth wife, and they are getting massive amounts of benefits. They're living for free. I mean, one of the people in one of the press conferences where she's begging U.S. taxpayers to keep funding these fraudulent daycares, she's got a giant diamond ring on, like massive, like better than I could ever hope to have. And it's absolutely disgusting because these people are directly robbing every single one of us. They're playing us for fools. And we have people struggling just to get by, and these people are literally millionaires. And they are... After this was exposed, of course, you have some of these people staged break-ins to their fake daycares. Of course, you can see that they're staging the break-in on the inside of their actual facility. And they're claiming that the only thing that was stolen were their attendance records. So how sad and horrible for them. They can't prove that there were children actually enrolled at these daycares because some horrible thief broke in and the only thing they stole were the documents that the state and the federal government needs to prove that they are actually a real business. They think we are this stupid, and maybe we are. Maybe we are because they have been doing this for years. So even in 2018, we've had people go before Congress and say this was happening. We've had whistleblowers forever. We even had a Twitter account dedicated to exposing this kind of fraud when Tim Walz was even named as the vice presidential candidate. They've been trying to blow the whistle on this for years, saying, hey, there's fraud here. Can someone check in and look at this and stop this? And nobody did a dang thing about it. So this has been known forever, and nobody's doing anything about it. And of course, most recently, as of today, you have 2,000 ICE agents and DHS agents surging into Minnesota. Tim Walz just went on Twitter and said, this is ridiculous. I can't believe that they're just having all these agents come in and they clearly don't need all these people just to arrest one guy at a library. He's suddenly extremely invested. Of course, Walz said he's not running for re-election anymore. He's dropped out of the race because he knows that he's probably and hopefully about to face criminal prosecution for his aiding and abetting fraud. Of course, Ilhan Omar, I pray to God that she will be deported any day because she is the queen of the fraudsters and knew about all of this. And it's so obvious and disgusting. And when you think about how many, I think there's only like 260,000 Somalians in this entire country. Yet, have you really thought about how many of them are running for public office or are in government? It's an astonishing disproportionate amount of Somalians are running for office and in government in our country compared to how many of them there actually are. And the reason why there are so many is because they know that they are funded by our tax dollars. It's all just being funneled in, and they have to keep the scams and the fraud going. So they're just protecting themselves, and they have nothing else to do. They don't have any actual jobs. They just sit around all day in their fake fraudulent daycares. So I'm really hoping that these ICE agents are going to bring them to justice, deport them all. Every single person who is involved in this needs to be denaturalized and just booted out of our country immediately, because we are a country that is trillions of dollars in debt, and most of it's probably fraud. And I am very, I would say, fiscally conservative, libertarian almost, in my beliefs of how we should be taxed. I don't believe in property tax. I think that's complete theft and it's unconstitutional. I think that income tax is insane. I think that sales tax, I mean, we have to figure out one tax that will pay for the necessities only. A simple tax. And if we actually just cut all the fraud, waste, and abuse, which is most of what the budget is at this point, then we will be in great shape. And so what's interesting about these ICE agents going into, and the DHS agents going into Minnesota right now, which of course Walz is saying that they are not cooperating. You have on the official government accounts yesterday, you had Homeland Security posting that they tried to get hotel rooms for their agents to stay at a certain Hilton hotel, and the Hilton hotel refused to let them book, canceled their bookings, and emailed them that they are not willing to allow any of these DHS employees to house on their property. And they're basically saying they don't want anything to do with them, and they canceled all their bookings and will not let them stay there. So of course, how are you going to run all of these operations with the staff if they don't have anywhere to stay? So they're effectively trying to block them. So of course, it was a huge scandal. I saw one video, I think it was by Nick Shirley. And he was basically exposing that this guy was refusing to let him book when he pretended to be an agent and try to book under a DHS email address. And so he was told no. The man, even when faced with Nick saying, hey, there was just a statement issued by Hilton that, we don't discriminate. And I think it's Everpeak or whatever, who owns the hotel, like this particular hotel, they said, oh, we don't discriminate. And, none of this is happening. And then he exposed that it was still, in fact, happening. So I believe the current news as of this morning is that Hilton is defranchising this place and they're pulling their name off of it. But of course, we shall see what happens with this. As of now, we do see several hundred, at least, agents on the ground there in Minnesota. I'm hoping they actually do something, and it's not just a photo op. I'm hoping they actually find these fraudsters and arrest and deport them, because they're going to be a drain on our taxpayer dollars until they are denaturalized and they're booted out of this country. Now, of course, this is not isolated to Minnesota. This is going on apparently in Ohio. There are a huge hotbed of these same daycare fraud schemes. And this is going on in probably every single state. Of course, California is going to be a hornet's nest of this behavior and activity. I don't think that red states are going to have too much of this going on. Personally, in my town, I know every single daycare by name. So I would highly doubt that in my wonderful city here in Tennessee that we're going to be too affected by this. But these Democrat-run cities are absolutely wildly operating on fraud. I think there are 4,000 daycare centers listed right around Boston, which of course, I mean, there's not even enough children to go to all of these places, and they're receiving millions and millions and millions of dollars in taxpayer funding, which doesn't even make sense. So this is one of the reasons why I am so conservative and fiscally conservative and think that we shouldn't even be funding welfare there should be no welfare for illegals, period. There should be no daycare funding for this type of thing. If you are an illegal immigrant, why are we paying for your daycare? But people like me would never be able to, not that I would want to, but we would never be able to afford a daycare. It's just wild to me that if you are a non-citizen, if you're an illegal immigrant who broke into this country, you are given everything for free. It's wild. Even without the scams, why are we, let's say that it's operating as it's supposed to, why are we funding free daycare for illegals? Because they shouldn't be here. So they don't have a work visa. So they shouldn't be actually working. So they should be with their children. The whole thing is nonsense. And I don't understand how any Democratic politician can justify this. It makes no sense. If you are here illegally, get out of my country. Get out. Because we cannot even take care of our own citizens. Go drive down Skid Row and look at what's going on. Look at the children in tents around open needles and drug addicts. Look at what's happening. And then tell me that people in Minnesota should be living in mansions because they're stealing all of the money. It's beyond maddening. So that's what's been going on. And then, of course, we've just seen so much coming out of this administration that I disagree with, which is why I feel partyless. Because we have had a majority, a Republican majority. We control everything right now. And yet what's been done, really? We haven't even had hardly any deportations. And we are actually paying $3,000 per person to beg them to self-deport, which I understand it's supposed to save us money. But the idea of $3,000 being given to these people who broke in instead of just rounding them up and deporting them quicker is so maddening to me. And the straw that really broke the camel's back for me was when Donald Trump, who campaigned upon a platform of, Jeffrey Epstein is evil and he's a pedophile and we're going to find out what's going on here and we're going to expose all these files and blah, blah, blah. And all of his supporters and all of these other podcasters and all of these, conservative influencers are all, we're going to get to the bottom of this. It's going to be amazing. We're finally exposing the pedophile elite. We have Kash Patel in power. We have Dan Bongino in power, and they do absolutely nothing. Pam Bondi does absolutely nothing. They've arrested no one. This was a slam dunk. Instead, they went on a big press tour and went on videos and said, oh, there's nothing to see here. You guys are all crazy. There's no pedophile elite running anything. There's no client list. We have no idea who Ghislaine Maxwell was trafficking these girls to. We have no idea. In fact, we don't think there was anybody there. Nobody was doing anything. Jeffrey Epstein's dead. He committed suicide. It's over. Stop talking about it. Crazy. How dare you? That happened and it drove me insane. Because if we can't protect the children, the most helpless in this country, then what is the point of government at all? If we are willingly just going to let these people, like Virginia Giuffre, who unfortunately has passed away. I mean, honestly, that's kind of a blessing for her that she didn't have to see the further corruption going on. It disgusts me. And so Bongino, of course, has returned to Twitter yesterday, and he's been tweeting up a storm and telling us how he's going to declare war on all the grifters and all the black pillars. And it's kind of like, let's think about who blackpilled us, Bongino. We sent you, essentially, by our voting Donald Trump in and his claiming of what he was going to do regarding the Epstein files, and he was going to investigate it and blow it all open. Then he lied to the public and made us feel like idiots. And then Bongino actually goes in there and lies to our faces and says there's nothing there and that Epstein killed himself. And then he comes back to Twitter after quitting after a year in his post as deputy FBI director, comes back and is now blocking every single person who is criticizing him for doing literally nothing in the past year. It makes no sense because he is calling us black pillars, but he blackpilled us. We sent you there, Bongino, and you did nothing. You did absolutely nothing. You arrested no one and you lied to us. So who is the grifter? Who's the grifter? And who's going to listen to your podcast when you straight up lied? It's like he went one person and came back with a chip in his brain or sold his soul. So I don't know if he was threatened, paid, or both. But I hope he didn't do it for free because I'm disgusted with what I'm seeing. Kash Patel, I can't even begin to talk about that insane train wreck because he has been more interested in going on podcasts and talking about his relationship with his girlfriend than seemingly doing anything at all. In fact, when Nick Shirley's videos came out, he just tweeted up a storm trying to claim that he had known about this the whole time and was working on this, when in reality, Nick did more than the FBI has discernibly done at all, because everything that Kash is claiming to have done was even done under the previous administration. He wasn't even in power. So it's all nonsense. And as I watch this, it's just made me so disillusioned with the Republican Party. And I just feel like they don't represent my interests anymore. And then, of course, not only am I going through watching all of this and this disillusionment and this misery, but I then wake up and we have black-bagged Nicolas Maduro out of Venezuela along with his wife. Now, of course, and this one, I don't even know how to feel. I don't even know how to feel about this one because yes, he was an evil dictator. That's not even up for debate. He was illegitimate. He shouldn't have been in power. But also, why are we involving ourselves in Venezuela? We are in the midst of hopefully prosecuting all of these Somalis who are stealing from us and hopefully getting back billions of dollars, 9 billion at last count. Of course, it's way more, and that's just one tiny place. So why are we involving ourselves? And I just feel like our government is so concerned with every single other place on the map besides our own country. So, of course, I'm America first. That means we don't send any money to foreign countries at all. I want zero of my dollars to go anywhere else. I'm talking none. We need to give $0 to anyone ever again. And that includes our greatest ally, Israel, who's actually our greatest siphon. And however you feel about the Jews, it doesn't matter because I'm talking about the government of Israel. The government of Israel, who has enough money to provide free abortions on demand to their citizens, which is vile, evil, and disgusting, first of all. They have free universal health care. They have free school for all of their citizens. It's just kind of like we cannot even afford anything here in this country. Our citizens are suffering. And yet we have Benjamin Netanyahu coming every 5 seconds into our country, shaking everybody's hand and saying how, we all have to support his Middle Eastern nation and that if you are a Christian, you must support Israel or you're going to hell, even though they don't even believe that Jesus is God. They think he is just, according to Ben Shapiro, a Jew who led a revolt and got killed for his trouble. That's a quote. I have no idea how they have conned everybody in this country into supporting them. It is inexplicable to me. It's disgusting. And with this one issue, I have become partyless because if you do not support the government of Israel, who I believe is committing genocide against the Gazans, I hate to agree with liberal Democrats in any issue, but it's just blatant that they're committing a genocide. It's just blatant. You may not like the religion of Islam. I don't like Islam. I think it's a false religion. I think it's disgusting and despicable. I think Sharia law is vile and evil. I think all of it is horrible and toxic, and I don't want it anywhere near my country. I'm a Christian, but I still don't like innocent children being blown up. And just because you are a Muslim child, that doesn't mean you are not innocent. You're still a child. So we can't do that. We cannot be doing that. So for me, I want none of my money to go to fund this country who does a bunch of things that I fundamentally disagree with, that goes against my religion. And I don't understand how there are actual Christians, Bible-believing Christians, who believe that this is acceptable in any way. They're closing their eyes. They do not want to see what's going on. They are justifying it in any possible way that they can. And they are just turning their eyes away from the suffering that's going on and calling themselves Christians, even though the people they're supporting are murdering actual children and do not even believe in the same God. So I will never accept this. I'm never going to be okay with this. So I feel that I'm partyless. I feel like I don't fit in on either side. I don't support anything that the Democrats support. And I am majorly breaking with my party on the Israel issue. I am America first. And it doesn't matter how many times the White House slaps the term America first on their memes and their graphics on their social media accounts. America first is an action. And if you are not performing those actions, then using the slogan doesn't make any sense. So, for example, President Trump attacking Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was the actual only America first politician, and calling her Marjorie Trader Greene is the most silly thing I've ever heard in my life. And it was extremely sad to watch her quit and leave because she was so demoralized and her family was being so attacked over these bizarre attacks from the president. And it was mainly just over the Epstein files. So he campaigned for the Epstein files to be released. Then when he was in power, he gaslit us all. Marjorie Taylor Greene refused to give up the fight, and he attacked her relentlessly. And then she resigned, and then everyone attacked her for resigning. It doesn't even make any sense. Then you have Thomas Massie, who is fantastic. He's actually the only America First politician left now, and he is staunchly against all of these ridiculous things that we're doing with Israel. And he wants us to care about our country and our states. And he cares about the people of Kentucky, who he was elected to represent. And then, of course, Donald Trump is relentlessly attacking him and funding, along with Miriam Adelson, competitors against him. And he's trying to primary him and get him out of office so that they can install some, I guess, person who's going to be Israel first, just like everybody else. And this kind of the Minnesota Somali fraud scheme, it's basically the same thing when you're looking at Israel, because they're doing the same thing. They're just installing people who are going to vote for this one particular issue to money launder over and over and over. It's all about money all the time. Same thing with Venezuela, from what I can discern. Now, of course, I haven't spent a lot of time looking into the history of the Venezuelan conflict. As I said, I know that Maduro is an evil person and he's illegitimate, but once again, why haven't we arrested a single person here at home? And we're so worried about every single other country, and it's taking up everyone's brain space, and we're not fixing a single issue here. And that is what is so maddening. And if you have questions, if you say, hey, I'm just a regular person that lives in the state of Tennessee, why do I have to care about giving all of my tax dollars to Israel when we have roads that need fixing? Or why do we need to black bag Maduro again? How is that going to help me? Oh, because of oil? Okay, great. Are you going to cancel my property taxes this year with all the new money from the oil that you just got? How does this affect me and my family? And if it doesn't, stop doing it. So I think the main thing that we all need to remember is that these people work for us. We hired them and we sent them somewhere to do a job. And if they aren't doing the job, they need to go. They must go. So while we have been disappointed yet again in the people that we hired who swore they were going to, do what we asked, perform according to our interests, yet again, they've done nothing. And yes, it's disappointing. I'm not black-pilled. I'm not giving up. I am close sometimes because if it wasn't going to be Trump, who's it going to be? If it wasn't going to be Marjorie Taylor Greene and she had to leave, who's it going to be? Bongino. And then even he turned. What are we supposed to do? We are going to be able to get out of this. We're going to find people who are honest. We're going to find somebody who's going to stop putting every other country first. We're going to hopefully get Lindsey Graham away from the president. That would be a great start so that he's not going to send us into more forever wars. But if we can't get these insane people away from the president, I don't know what to do. And everyone is floating that J.D. Vance and I think Marco Rubio are going to run together. I mean, he's not going to get my vote if things continue on like this, because this isn't what I voted for. So a J.D. Vance presidency, while last year might have looked enticing, this year just looks like more of the same, which is the same old garbage that isn't helping me or my family. So if you feel in any way the same, welcome. We are partyless. We'll be partyless together. And I'll talk about these things every week. And we'll just try to figure out a way through this, because it's critical that we don't give up, that we remain involved, and that we remain watchful, and we hold people accountable. And it may feel hopeless sometimes, but it's not. And we're going to enact real change, and we're going to hold these people's feet to the fire, and we're not going to stop until our children's future is secured. And that's why they want childlessness. That's why they want abortions on demand. They want to kill the next generation. They want people to be fat, dumb, and happy. They want them to have no reason to think about the future. And if you're childless, you really don't think much about the future, because you don't have to. It's just about me, me, me. And you don't have to care. But when you have children, of which I do, then suddenly war becomes terrifying, because that's your children who are going to feel those boots on the ground. And having no ability to buy a home becomes terrifying. And when your president is saying, we're going to fix this with 50-year mortgages, suddenly that's not going to work anymore. You want to own something. You want to have something for yourself and your family. You don't want your inheritance for them to be taxed. You become invested. And so I really do believe they're trying to prevent people from becoming parents, because that's the best way to make people stop caring about the future. And then they can just have as much money as they want and pay for their own children. And we are just the wage slaves that allow it all to happen. We are the ants serving the queen, and we can't allow that. So it's going to get better. We're going to be able to fix it, I hope. And thanks for joining me. Come back for more of this uplifting content. I promise we're going to find a solution for this. And at the very least, we're going to be able to talk about it. And yeah, thanks for joining me.